All right, the next game here. So we're going to get done with the first round today. So we have the Knicks, according to simulation. I was very shocked at this game. The Knicks beat the Suns, and it was bad. It was bad. And if as we go to the rosters, actually, you should be able to go stat. No, this one might have been. So there's the stats of the other game that I forgot flipped. This one might be the game that I didn't. Oh, no, there it is. All right. So Knicks Suns here. So looking at that lineup with the Knicks, Marbury, Ewing, they got Jeremy Ling, Bernard King, Oakley, Camby, Spreewell, Houston Starks, and Anthony. And that's Carmelo Anthony. Versus the Suns with Walter Davis, Stoudemire, Booker, Tom Chambers, Kevin Johnson, Marley, Sean Marion, Steve Nash, DeAndre Ayton, and Barboza. So I guess, Tyler, who we got? We got the Suns this time?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, the first thing for Suns is Steve Nash apparently did not have the ball enough. If you look at his numbers, he only took 4 shots, and so I don't know what coach of the Suns there, but he should be fired after this game. But anyway, so looking for us for the Suns, Nash has got to get involved. He's got to get involved. The ball's got to be in his hands. Obviously, look, Booker did not shoot the ball, which that does not make sense. That's not correct when he went 3 for 5 and 1 for 7. But anyway, it's got to be in Nash's hands. We got Stoudemire we can play through in the post, but KJ and Nash got to have the ball in the hand and creating, whether off a pick and roll situation or they're just creating, trying to beat. I don't know if Stephon Marbury, I don't remember him being a defensive specialist, but the Knicks, once again, are going to be a tough physical defensive team. And so we got to get up and down. Kind of like what I said with the 76ers, we got to get up and down with this team. You know, our 4 is a stretch 4 and Tom Chambers. Marion probably would play some 4. So, and Walter Davis is probably potentially. So we've got to get up and down with it for us to have success against the Knicks. And then they got to make shots. You know, defensively, with the I would make them make some perimeter shots. We would sag, probably, soft hedge the ball screens and make them make some shots and then go from there. Tyler, anything to add with that?
No, not much to add. I agree with everything you said. Definitely would have liked to see Booker and Steve Nash get involved more. And when I saw the score, the first thing I thought of was Carmelo Anthony just being put in isolation situations, just killing us. But when you look, he had 20 minutes. He only had 6 shot attempts. So, that's the first thing that came to my mind was that Carmelo Anthony had a really good game and, put the ball in the basket like he was accustomed to. But, no, I definitely agree with what you said. Just think our offensive side of the ball was mismanaged a little bit by whoever was coaching our team.
All right, Knicks.
I would like this Knicks team. I think especially in the paint, they're going to be an old school team. When you have Ewing and Oakley and even Bernard King. Maybe even Marcus Camby to a certain extent. But then I like our depth also, especially at the guard position. I think it would be interesting. As much as I don't like Carmelo Anthony, this would by far be the best team he played on. And I think there are people there that would take some pressure off of him and let him maybe focus on his strengths a little bit. So as much as I don't like Carmelo Anthony, as much of a cancer as he is, I think 20 minutes and only 6 shots, that's going to, that probably isn't going to fly very well. I think he needs to be a little bit more involved. I like Marbury with this group. I think, 21 shots, 14 for 21, that's about what you're going to see out of him and get out of him. At face value, I think, we're going to not be a great defensive team. I think there's a handful of guys on that team that are less interested in defense and more interested in offense. But, I kind of like the personality of our team, when you get Starks with Ewing and then you pull in a Stephon Marbury. And I don't know. I know there are some cancers, like I mentioned. There are some free radicals there with Spreewell and Carmelo Anthony, even Stephon Marbury to a certain extent. But I think the all-time Knicks would be a tough out in this tournament. And like I said, I kind of like our lineup. I don't know in terms of X's and O's. I think, you had mentioned it, Pick. You got to make us shoot it from outside because we're going to be good inside. We're going to be good on the dribble drive. So you're going to have to take some things away from us and, try and steer us in a different direction. But I will lean on Mark for the X's and O's, but those are some of my initial thoughts.
Yeah, no, Ray, I agree with you. I think at first look, initially, I think that I thought that Suns team is loaded, and I was actually surprised by the way it finished as well. But you look at Melo played 20 minutes. He needs, if we're coaching this, he's getting King's 35 minutes. And I like Bernard King, and he was a really good scorer. But Carmelo Anthony, and who I've never been a fan of, outside of the 1 year Chauncey played with him in Detroit or in Denver, because he actually got him playing team ball, defense, and so on. I thought that was his best year. But outside of that, Melo is very, very skilled. He's one of the best offensive players I have ever seen play. He probably was not used right here, and again, he should have Bernard King's 35 minutes. So that would be one of the major changes. I think we're going to isolate him more. You brought that up. I mean, he's a great isolation player. We're going to isolate him in mid-post, somewhere outside the block, and get him doing what he does. I'm starting Marbury, Houston, and Anthony, along with probably Ewing and Oakley, just to be that kind of team. You talked about the kind of the personality of this team, and right there, you got some tough players. I think some physical players, and we're gonna bang it inside and between Melo and Ewing. Let the guards do what they do. Have shooters with Sprewell, I think, is explosive coming off the bench, and Starks, obviously, we all know what Starks is capable of. So I like that team. I think it'd be a fun game.
Anybody surprised that Jeremy Lin makes the all-time Knicks team? I know he had a couple really good years there, but all-time Knicks from 85 on, it just surprises me that he's there.
Well, he's partially there because of 2K, to be honest with you. There was a couple guys that were not in the game that were, that 9-10 that I didn't feel I had need to make, so I put him in there.
That's fine.
But I like the Suns. I think that we would have to try to outscore you. I think but can Johnson, can Booker, can Nash keep Marbury out of the paint, and then can Stoudemire and DeAndre, can they handle Ewing? I mean, I worry about the Suns' defense. I think we're good. The Suns team is good enough offensively to potentially beat the Knicks. But if it's a half-court grinded-out game, we could be in trouble. Even though we've got one of the best, I think, point guards ever, and I think a lot of people agree he's probably top 5-ish with Nash, and then you got KJ and you got Book, 3 guys who can, who could score. I'm going Suns here. So Tyler, who you got in this one?
Yeah, I would go Suns too.
Ray, who you got?
I go Knicks. I mean, the Suns have some nice players and star power, but like I said, I think the all-time Knicks from 85 to present, I just like that roster. Now, like you said, it's got to turn into a half-court game. They got to make sure that happens. But I do like this Knicks roster. I go Knicks, sorry.
Mark?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Suns just simply I do like the Knicks roster, but I just don't think it works. Again, Melo never wins consistently. Marbury is not, again, he's one of those really fun players to watch, but wasn't necessarily a winner either. So I just don't think that team has a chance against the Suns team.
All right. So here's the first one switching from the simulation. We ain't gonna change score, but we got Suns. All right, the next one was a fun one in terms of for the Magic. The simulated, it was a whooping. I felt bad for the Pacers. That's how bad it was, simulation.
Wow.
And this one for sure, I know this one I don't, unless I flipped. Yeah, no stats for this one, but 2K loves Dwight Howard, first off. He had like 20 and 30. And so if you look at the roster, I do like their roster, the Magic, with Penny, McGrady, Turkaloo, Dwight Howard. Let's see here. There they are. So they got Hardaway, Nick Anderson, McGrady, Turkaloo, and Howard with Gritty Gutty, Scotty Skiles, Jamal Nelson, D. Scott, Aaron Gordon, and Vlu, Nicola, have someone help me out.
Vucevic.
Thank you. So their problem, I mean, they've got Anderson and McGrady, but coming off the bench, like they got a couple small guards, but they got big guards to start. So that's a team that, I think could potentially score a ton of points. And then Pacers are right underneath them here. So the Pacers went with Mark Jackson, Reggie Miller, Paul George, Jermaine O'Neal, Rick Smits, Jalen Rose, Oladipo, Granger, Chuck Person, and I think we chose Antonio Davis over Dale Davis. So whichever Davis you guys want, and actually so really this would have been a really good game, I think. So Tyler, you and I got Pacers?
Yeah, is that?
Yeah.
Is that
So all right, Tyler, you can start with the Pacers here.
Yeah, I don't really know how I would try to attack this Orlando Magic team. I like having Jalen Rose, Victor Oladipo, and Danny Granger off the bench. I think those are three most of the time reliable options. Obviously try to get Reggie Miller some shots outside because we know he can light it up. Depending on the Paul George you're getting, when he was on the Pacers, he had some really good years, and we kind of saw him start to elevate his game and start to take off into that trajectory, which we thought he was going to get to before his injury. So, get the ball in his hands as well. But when I look at this Magic team, Dwight Howard, when he was with the Magic, was obviously such a defensive presence with his deep boys, and Tracy McGrady can score the basketball, Penny Hardaway can score and create, and then you've got a high flyer like Aaron Gordon off the bench, and
you're the Pacers. Can't be talking to Magic like that.
I have to give credit to this Magic team, even though the Pacers were the higher seed. I personally would rather go with the Magic here, looking at their lineup. So I'm not sure what I would do. It's hard as someone that hasn't coached yet to kind of analyze it this way, because I just kind of think from a player's perspective.
That's fair.
So again, I'll lean on you for this one.
Well, we've had two teams where we say for us to win, we've got to go up and down. For this one, we've got to play half court.
Yeah.
Mark Jackson's he's gonna have a disadvantage because one of his strengths was backing down little guards and making post moves or was being physical. That's gonna have trouble. He could do it if he's got Gritty Gutty or Jamal, but Penny's too athletic. I think it would cause him problems. Obviously, would have to be Reggie. Reggie would have to have a big game. Paul George, he could try to. McGrady was awful good in his prime, but Paul George, and that would be a key matchup. Your fours, can you handle it? Turkaloo, who I think could score, could shoot the ball, and was physical, and we would have to try to go at Howard with Rick Smits. I would say that the Paul George, McGrady, and Smits and Howard, those are the key matchups. I don't know if Rick Smits would not be able to keep up with Howard. So, like I said, we'd have to go half court, isolation. Rose could get in there and be a big guard to help if we're having trouble. Oladipo's, an athletic, good kid. So this is not a bad team by any means, but I think we would have to be a half court, grind it out, and then go from there. So we'd have our hands full. All right, go ahead there, Magic. Mark, you want to start for the Magic this time?
Yeah. Look, I think that Pacer squad is. I think you guys are sleeping on them a little bit. I think that their depth is really strong, because if you look at our 10, I think it's a very solid 10. But I think you got two small point guards in the second five. So I think the big thing with this group is one of them are probably not going to play, most likely, and I'm going to go a 9-man rotation. And either Scotty or Jameer is going to have to sit and cheer and get some water for us, and accept that role. And they'll have to battle that out because I can't. I just think that explosiveness though with the guards that we have, which is what Penny, Nick, McGrady, and then you got Aaron Gordon coming off the bench. Again, throwing Scott Skiles or with either Scott or again, if they get limited minutes and get in there, but only one at a time. But if Penny's in, there's no need to have one of those two next to him, I guess is my key.
Yeah.
Ball's going to be in Penny's hands as long as he's on the floor. So maybe it's whoever's better playing that night. Scott and Jameer both get a chance in the first half, and then second half go with whoever seemed to have the hot hand because both of them are capable. So I think I'd probably go that route. I think Vucevic, personally, I think he's better than Turkoglu. I mean, he's a double-double guy, steps out, shoots a three. So I think the bench or the depth at that spot is really strong. He can play the five as well. So I think there's a good rotation with them there. But I think that McGrady is too much to handle for anybody, even as good as Paul George is as a wing defender. I think Tracy at his best is just that good. Nick Anderson's great shooter. Penny's just a different type of guard.
I like this Pacers team.
Very long and athletic.
I mean,
so I like this team.
Well, you saw what the Pacers did. I said it's not that I don't like the Pacers. You saw, watch the Last Dance and remember that. Boy, did they get the Bulls a run.
Yeah.
And Knicks when they were there. They're good. And like you said, we've got good depth. We really do. And
And I think Howard's overrated. I think 2K overrates Howard. I think that you don't have enough. I mean, shooting-wise, again, you have McGrady, Nick Anderson. Penny wasn't a great shooter, but Turkoglu. So that's the saving point is that all these guys around him, everybody off the bench, everybody can shoot the three. But again, you want to build a team around Dwight. I know Orlando got a little bit of success in that run with him, but it was short-lived and it wasn't that great. So that's the tough part for me with that team is I think Dwight Howard.
Ray, what do you got? What do you got for about Magic?
Well, I mean, I would take the Magic. I think you guys kind of fought our argument for us. Tyler waved the white flag pretty early, and then, as much as I like the Knicks and like Pick said, I would like the all-time Pacers, and during this era with Reggie Miller, I would never bet against Reggie Miller. I like the team and the Pacers during this time frame. I just think the Magic a little bit stronger, and you guys mentioned the matchup problems that you would have. You referenced the Last Dance, and the Bulls really threw a monkey wrench in what the Pacers wanted to do by putting Scotty on Mark Jackson. So I think we would do a similar thing with our bigger guards. We would, take some of the things that Mark Jackson would do, disrupt the offense, the entry into the offense, and try and do some of those things. Then I like our chances. But like I said, I would never ever bet against Reggie Miller unless it's the Bulls of that era. I like Reggie Miller, his tenacity and fearlessness, but I just think the matchups are just a little bit more in our favor with the Magics, and for reasons you guys already mentioned.
All right. Well, then, Mark, who do you got in the game?
I am going to sway towards the Magic again, just with all those three-point threats around a guy that Dwight at his best was a double-double machine. He was at his best. So we're getting at Dwight at his best, which means he was engaged defensively. He was a shot blocker. He was limited offensively with post moves, but the bottom line, we still have Tracy, Nick spotting up, and Penny to attack and do things off the dribble, throw Dwight lobs, kick out to shooters, which are fours are all stretch fours. Aaron Gordon it could do a lot of things. So I'm going with the Magic on it.
Tyler?
Yeah, I'm going with the Magic too.
Oh.
Obviously, I kind of swayed towards that one early on.
Ray?
Magic.
All right. I would probably go Magic, but like I said, this is one of the best, would be one of the best games to if it was quote unquote a real game, I think, in this first round. So Magic do event. Now if you took a peek simulation, look at this. The 4 seed Jazz got beat badly by the Nets.
Wow.
It was I turned it on and I couldn't believe it. This one I should have stats for, so we don't have to go back and forth. So there it is right there. So we're looking at for the Nets, Petrovic, J. Kidd, Lopez, Richard Jefferson, Derek Coleman, Kerry Kittles, Jared Allen, Buck Williams, Keith Van Horn, and Kenny Anderson. So that was the Nets. The Jazz with Mitchell, Adrian Dantley, Gobert, Karl Malone, what's his name? Kirilenko, Eden, Hornacek, Stockton, and D. Will. That coach did not like D. Will.
No.
So, you guys have the Nets. Go for it.
Right?
Well, we had mentioned a long time ago, you know, Drazen Petrovic and how, you know, he was underappreciated and was a really good player for a short time before, you know, his tragic death. You know, Jason Kidd, obviously, real nice player. I don't know how they would beat the Jazz that bad, though, and upset them, but I feel like the Nets are kind of like the band of bag of misfit toys or whatever that was, right? I don't know, just Keith Van Horn kind of makes me think of that. Did you guys lose me there?
We can't see. We can hear you.
Dang it. I don't know what happened. It just kind of, I heard the bleep and then I left. But in terms of X's and O's, I don't know. Like I said, I lean on Mark. Yeah. I don't know. The Nets never won a whole bunch, and there's a reason for that. But, yeah, I think the bag of misfit toys is the best way I can describe that.
They did have a couple years when J. Kidd led them, and that's why I moved J. Kidd. J. Kidd was on the Mavs, and I moved him to the Nets because of that. So, Mark, go ahead.
I think this team is loaded, and I think this team fits together perfectly. I really do. Jason Kidd, again, and the point guard thing, he's another guy that can easily, I don't know where he's at on anybody's list, but he's easily, and I think not arguably, top 10 in my opinion. And I think that you can put him in the top 5 in some, depending on what you're looking for. But he was a great leader, great floor leader, great shooter. Passing was unbelievable. He was a great defender as a point guard. So you have one of the best point guards on this team. Drazen just could score the ball. He had the ability. He's underappreciated, but only because it was such a short-lived career, you know, because of the accident. And if that didn't happen, I mean, all my kids have seen highlights of him in his best moments. You know, I've made them watch. You got to know who this guy is. He cannot be forgotten. He could flat out score like Mike could at that time, and it was unbelievable how he could do it in his shooting ability. So I think you have, again, Derek Coleman. The team was bad at that time, so no team success, but Derek Coleman was a phenomenal player. He started the stretch 4 unknowingly. Van Horn was another stretch 4. I like this team. I think we have the ability to move the ball, work inside out, stretch the ball with, you know, from Keith to Derek. And that's which Jefferson?
Richard Jefferson.
That's Richard. Oh, my gosh. So, yeah, the wings we have, athletic.
And if you took Brooke Lopez is shooting now.
What's that?
Brooke Lopez now is a 3-point shooter.
Yep. Right. So I like that group. You got a lot of length, you got a lot of scoring, and you got some you know, solid defenders from starting with point guard play. So
you started to get me when you said how they fit together, and I start to buy that. You know, I mentioned the 1-2 punch, you know, Kidd, Petrovic, I'm all in. But I just feel like it drops off so quickly after that. And I am less of a fan of Derek Coleman than you are. And I lean on you. You're a way smarter basketball person and NBA person than I am. But you could convince me on how it fits together and pick. You mentioned Lopez as part of that. I just feel like we're going to get beat up a little bit inside. And like I said, I think we drop off pretty quickly. So if things don't go our way, I think the wheels could fall off pretty quickly, especially against someone like the Utah Jazz. But that's just where I'm at.
Tyler?
No, that's fair.
Yeah. When you look at this Jazz lineup, obviously they've got a lot of star power there. I probably would have involved Karl Malone a little bit more in the offense. He only had 4 shot attempts. Was very efficient though, out going 4 for 4. Rudy Gobert is obviously a great defensive player. I would have put Donovan Mitchell in a lot of opportunities to score the basketball. I'm a huge Donovan Mitchell fan. I don't know if any of you are, but I really like watching Donovan Mitchell play. Have John Stockton, maybe put him in some pick and roll situations. But yeah, I think when you look at this Jazz team, there's really a lot of ways that we could attack this Nets team. I think the point guard matchup would be interesting when you look at Stockton and Kidd. Obviously, for me, Jason Kidd would have the edge there, so I think it'd be difficult at times to try to get Jason Kidd, try to keep the ball out of his hands just because of how good he was with the ball in his hands. But I definitely think this Jazz team, we'd have a lot of different options and a lot of different things we could do.
I look at, Mark Eaton probably would not be able to play too much in this game with the 4 men that the Nets have and Lopez being able to step out. So Favors would play over Eaton for me. Obviously, D. Will only had 2 shots and played 14 minutes. He's got to play more, which allows maybe Donovan to be able to score off on the wing. Karl Malone, obviously, in Stockton, the pick and roll, but Malone that's crazy. And any simulation, Karl Malone only gets 4 shots unless they were coming with the double. Obviously in the simulation, J. Kidd just killed Stockton, and that's probably what happened. But, Stockton, tough. I'm a little more concerned, Hornacek, once again, only played 21 minutes. That's about the same because I would play D. Will and Stockton and with Mitchell off the ball. Danley, is a guy that can really score. But really it starts with Malone. Ball's in Stockton's hand and it moves to Malone. You could have put, Hornacek, maybe you put a Russell in there instead of Hornacek, and now you got a better defender because you've got enough guys who can score with this team. But I think this is a dangerous team. They were playing well. Jerry Sloan did a great job with them. But if Kidd can handle Stockton off getting through a screen by Karl Malone, we'd be in trouble because J. Kidd was a very good defender. But if Stockton was able to turn the corner, he was going to find the open guy. So this is another interesting matchup. The Nets were bad when we went through it the first time. The second time when you add I think I added J. Kidd, and just adding J. Kidd makes huge difference to a team. Because they didn't have, their point guard was Kenny Anderson at the time. I still like the Jazz. I think what they could do, but this one is interesting. So, Ray, who do you got in this matchup?
I go Jazz, and again, you mentioned some things. I think the role of Karl Malone and Adrian Dantley would be switched. Maybe my guard minutes would be shuffled a little bit. I like the idea, because you got Stockton, Hornacek, Williams, so I would put Donovan Mitchell, like you said, off the ball. I think it was mismanaged by the computer, and I think the Jazz win this one.
Tyler?
Yep, I'm going Jazz.
Mark?
Yeah, Jazz.
Yeah, I got the Jazz. But like Sue said, as you look at this team, this is a type of team that if you can get them all to believe to play their role, it could be a team that could get up there and get in the playoffs for the NBA. But they got the Jazz. The next one, where are we? Jazz. Oh, okay. The Rockets Wolves. Rockets ended up being the 3 seed against the 30 seed of the T-Wolves. And so you look at the T-Wolves with the
J.R. Ryder. Nice.
They were led by Isaiah J.R. Ryder. You got Cat. D'Angelo was a late addition. Kevin Garnett, Levine, Wiggy, Christian Laettner, Wally World, Googs, and Rubio. Rockets. Now, here's the thing is, I moved Moses Malone. I had him on a different team, but then when I did the research, he had some huge years with the Rockets. I mean, just ridiculous numbers. So when the first thing you look at the Rockets, you go Malone, Olajuwon, Sampson, Sampson, Yao. Then you got, Hayes and Thorpe. That's a big team. So Harden, Kenny the Jet, Stevie Francis, like I said, Mo Malone, The Dream, Alvin Hayes, Sampson, Otis Thorpe, Yao, and Vernon Maxwell.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an impressive team. And I like I said, I don't want to put Moses on there because they already had the big three, but he just had ridiculous numbers with the Rockets, and I had to do that. So I moved him over there. Look, I think Tyler and I got the T-Wolves, so let's go. We got to get T-Wolves going. We're in T-Wolves. Oh, man, I don't know what to say because when you look at the post players for the Rockets, I mean, we're going to have to double the piss out of people, in the post. We're not – I don't see, Cat can maybe guard, could kind of keep him off, but that's dangerous. Garnett, is a very good defender, but once, he's would be fine, but just overall, I don't like, Mark talked about the Nets fitting. I don't think that T-Wolves team fit. Ryder, Wiggins, Levine, and Russell, four of them, I don't know how much they want to play defense. So we would have to find ways to motivate them to go. I mean, it's a dangerous team on a given night. They could put up a lot of points, but overall through, if we're talking one game, maybe they could have a game, but we would definitely have to do a lot of things defensively to be able to handle this Rocket team. And if anything, we would ISO, you'd have to go through Cat. You have to go through Cat and, everyone else. And then, guys, like I said, but biggest problem for the team was if we got to get them motivated to defend. Tyler, can you motivate this team to defend?
I was actually thinking about that when I was looking at this Timberwolves team, with the right motivation and the right strategy going into it, maybe this, with the athleticism of this team, this could maybe be a mayhem team. Maybe. I know they lack defensively, but you obviously were a great mayhem coach, so maybe if we did it right, we could get them going. But I think with this T-Wolves team, I think I would just run. Put the ball in Ricky Rubio's hands, get Zach LaVine and Andrew Wiggins down the court. D'Angelo Russell can shoot it from outside. You've got Cat and Kevin Garnett trailing behind. So I personally would like to get out and run and just try to use that athleticism that we have. Obviously, you look at the Rockets team and they've got just an awesome lineup, but I would try to go up-tempo, move the ball down the court, and hope that maybe the athleticism could get us over the top.
I will say this. We do have one guy that if one of the guys could get this team going, could Kevin Garnett, the big ticket, could he light a flame under these guys? I think he was that type of guy.
Yeah.
So go ahead, guys. We're about just under 2 minutes there for Rockets, and we'll finish this one up. So go ahead, Rockets.
I'll go quickly, and I think Tyler has the right idea in terms of getting up and down the court. And for me, yes, big picture and roster top to bottom, we have the advantage in the paint. But tell me if I'm wrong. You're only going to play two at a time max. So your big two post threats could match up nicely with any of the two that we would put out there. So I don't think it's as bad as you think, and I don't think it would be as lopsided as the score ended up being, a 40-point spread. But this roster, as you mentioned in the open pick, it's just really nice top to bottom for the the Rockets. And some of those people like Olajuwon, I mean, at their prime, these dudes were tough to handle. So I don't know. I think the Rockets win, but I think it's closer than this score was, and I don't think you can necessarily just say that our post presence is what's going to win it, because you're not going to play four at a time. So,
Mark.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's probably not going to be 40, but it's definitely going to be over 20. So, good luck to this roster. You can try whatever. I agree with you. Garnett could probably get those guys, some of them tougher. He'd probably have Cat crying after the first 5 minutes or first timeout. The Rockets team just has too much scoring power, too much size. And again, yes, only two at a time, but we're talking about fresh. You
Yeah,
throw
right.
in, you bring out
Rotate.
Elijah, and suddenly you got a fresh